Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from the United States and Washington, D.C. as we look across the globe in 143 different nations, looking for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. You know, we should have about 9 billion souls. That's 2 billion more people than today by 2050 on the planet that we need to house, to provide energy for, and to feed. How are we going to do that? And as more and more people move into urban areas, we're now at 54% of the people live in cities and large communities. And by 2050, they're saying it could be over 70%. And many of you have heard this before in the country of Brazil, a very huge country. Over 85% of the people already live in cities. So how are we going to provide the food, the fuel, and the fiber that they're going to need? We have two people that have a very interesting organization. They came from Miami in Florida. This is Serena Bear, who is the Director of Marketing, and Amy Treese, who is the Director of Membership, and it's called Slow Food Miami. Now this is a very interesting name, and I'm going to start off, Amy, if you don't mind, since you're right beside me. You know, we hear about fast food, but slow food?
Slow food is actually the opposite of fast food. And it was started in the mid-'80s by a gentleman named Carlo Petrini, who was protesting the opening of a McDonald's at the foot of the Spanish Steps in Rome.
Oh my goodness, so now we're taking on the corporate world. All right, I'm with you. Okay,
so
keep
he
going.
started this organization so that people could kind of get back to the table, the pleasures of food, and be connected to where their food was grown, where it comes from, artisan food making, and not have this industrialized food population that was happening.
Well, Serena, I think it's really more than that. I've read through all the information. Actually, I went to Slow Food International and looked up on you guys. And it says there that really what you're doing is that you want a full table, but it's around families, it's around community, and it's around the globe, but as a global community, not just as food production. So tell us a little bit about this philosophy, because you're really, it's almost like we're going back to the 18 and early 1900s as far as the philosophy of food itself.
Well, we think that one of the ways to bring back the pleasure of the table is really reminding people of the connections that come from food culture and really knowing where your food comes from, using food to connect to family, to the history and to the place of where you live. And as our world becomes much more industrialized and the food system has become so much more industrialized, that has gone away. And I think that was it wasn't really a reaction to corporate culture that Carlo Petrini was responding to, but really this shift in consumer culture, this loss of place and loss of community.
Well, if you look at what's going on in Italy and throughout Europe, the 27 nations of the European zone, is that, you know, they're having some of the same problems that we have in North America, where you have these now more and more nuclear families. The extended families are becoming more and more afraid. You know, the youth are moving into the cities, leaving the countryside, and so you're losing this connectedness to the land, and we've been going through that for the last 100 years like Europe. But looking at all of this, Amy, why is there an organization called Slow Food that's even concerned about this?
Well, Slow Food is really concerned about being connected to the environment, sourcing food that's local and that's good. We believe that good food is a right and not a privilege. And so it's good for the people who grow it, good for the people who eat it, and good for the planet that it's produced on.
I think one of the things that I read in the treatise, you know, about Slow Food International, it's about, you know, the farmers, the ranchers, the others that are caring for the land, and all the beings, plants, and animals that are there. But also, you're really concerned about the workers that are in that same environment. So how is Slow Food looking at reaching out beyond just the farmers, the ranchers, the gardeners, so that all workers that are involved in this whole broad and I'm not sure in your context, industry should be involved in this?
Well, I think we believe that people deserve to be treated fairly, and that we should have enough respect for our food and our planet to treat those who create it and produce it fairly and well, rather than these industrialized, cheaper methods that are really
the mass-produced nature of food and also the processing.
And it's hard to it's harder to make the right decision when things become cheaper, and so we try to promote the value of the way that smaller producers, treat the land and their workers, and also promote local businesses. That is the sort of the root of our economy, and when that goes away, we all suffer. So we really believe that treating the workers fairly and the farmers and everyone involved in the food chain is really important. And
I notice this as far as the fair is concerned. It comes up over and over as far as the doctrine, the mission, the vision, and the objectives of all this. Many times this would be called like living wage. Is that what you're talking about as far as fair, or is it going way beyond just the living wage concept, Serena?
I think it goes back to just the root of respect, and really the conditions and the way we treat our farmers and the way we get to know our farmers. And I think you'll see later we have two of our wonderful farmers and our chefs and all the people who produce the food, really to have more of a connection to them. And that will impact wages as well as treatment and pricing and access as well.
Well, one of the things, Amy, they talk about this farm to fork. This is a very popular kind of notion that, somehow we're transporting this off the land into the home and to the table. And I like this: good, clean, and fair. Explain that as far as the philosophy of slow food.
Well, when Carlo Petrini was forming this organization 23 years ago, he wanted it to be good for people's bodies, good for the community, and really connect people to the community that grows it. Slow food movement is an idea. It's a way of living. It's a way of being respectful of where your food sources are, how you prepare it, how you treat the people at the table who eat it with you. We really feel strongly in Miami, because we're so close to one of the largest subtropical farming areas in the United States, if not the largest, that food needs to come directly just from down the street from us and not have more frequent flyer miles than a lot of us do.
I love that. Serena, when you and I first started talking by phone about coming on the Emerald Planet, these are some of the notions that we were talking about. And as the world urbanizes, more and more of the real fertile land is being taken over,
Right.
for people's living area. So it's becoming gasoline and diesel stations and, car washes and fast food and
Right.
retail and all these other kinds of things. And we kind of forget about that we have literally millions of acres, not only in the United States and other parts of North America, but every city across the globe locked up into these urban areas, and it's just there and fallow.
Right. Well, that's why we
So
have to
how do we take and how do we, move the switch in people's minds that I'm living around areas that I can farm right here?
Well, we'll see a great example of someone in Miami, T. Squires, doing that with some urban dead space. She's transformed into a beautiful garden. We'll see much more about that and a lot of the impact that's having. But also making sure that even the farmland that still exists stays viable is important, so that we continue to support the foods that they produce so that they can continue to farm that land. And so one of the easiest ways is to go ask for local. And one of the things that we try to do, and you'll see as we talk with some of our examples, is really promote the value of local food.
Mm-hmm. Amy, looking at this whole thing as far as green jobs are concerned, that's one of the things Emerald Planet's very much focused on, and we work very diligently in Washington, D.C., and a number of other what we call national model programs. But actually, you're doing it. through Slow Foods as far as providing, I mean, really green jobs?
Well, we work very hard to promote farmers markets, community-supported agriculture, and we're really looking at ways to increase the distribution of our family farmers' produce into the Miami area. We live in a very heavily populated area, yet there are still food deserts right in the middle of them. So we're actually helping to create agriculture jobs, foraging jobs for the chefs to go and find this produce, and hopefully some distribution jobs as well as they start to move this. Rather than moving our tomatoes to Dallas and then Atlanta, we're trying to get them to move them up the strait.
Yeah, looking at this, and back to Serena, that I know you're really trying to have a diversity, and also really in some of the literature is you're hearkening back to native species. You know, one time there were several hundreds of varieties of tomatoes as an example. Now it may be 5 or 6. Apples, 200 or 300. Now it's down to 7 or 8 major varieties. How is Slow Food leading the way as far as bringing back these native species, so we're repopulating these urban areas with plants that were there thousands of years in some cases?
Well, we do that in a variety of ways, but we have a big program that, as you see on this chart here, that is called the Arc of Taste. And this is a great way in which the national organization and the local chapters really work together to amplify the promotion of those foods that we all feel are at risk of extinction, either because of industrial agriculture and large-scale distribution and environmental damage. This map is actually just a small sample of the 200 foods on the U.S. registry alone. And what I hope this also shows is the rich landscape of diverse foods available in the U.S. that we really believe is important to promote, to keep on our tables, and to keep in production. To not only because it enhances the pleasure of the table, and also the connection to our place and our history. I mean, look at the foods that are on this map.
Yeah, it's a real aesthetic is what you're talking about as far as the food, the colors,
yeah,
and
the tomatillo.
varieties,
how could we live without
and taste.
Right.
It's in all that. Amy, we're going to end up in here because we've just about running out of time, so it needs to be quick. How do people become, because I know you're director of membership.
Yes.
How do people do that?
They can go to slowfoodmiami.org to our website, and there are lots of ways for people to get involved. They can join the organization, which they do at a national level, and they can also volunteer with us. We're starting to bring people into our school garden plantings, volunteering at our many events that we do to fundraise, and we're always looking for people who believe in the movement to join us.
I tell you, it's fantastic, and I just love the fact that you're bringing agriculture back into the urban areas. That's where it needs to be, because with all the pollutants coming out, we need to trap everything possibly there, filter it, and you know, just to clean the air, the soil, and the water as we create the Emerald Planet.
Around the world, 1 out of every 3 women will be beaten or otherwise abused in their lifetime, often by a family member or loved one. A future free from violence. It's all she's ever wished for.
Did you know you have the power to stop children from joining gangs? You can help a father find a job and home for his family. You can assist a woman who can't afford the medicine she needs to live and the home she can't live without. You can choose to make a difference in our community. Support Volunteers of America, and you can help improve the lives of nearly 2 million Americans each year, with programs and services that help individuals and families overcome their challenges to become as independent as possible. Support the programs that are working in our community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
For some folks, saving for the future is easy, but for you, it might take a little more effort. Saving for your future is your responsibility, and there's a lot to save for.
I never thought of that.
Like your child's education, perhaps uncovered medical expenses, or just to be sure you can live the way you want when you retire. The time is now to save for tomorrow. Save now or work forever. The choice is yours. Choose to save.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 143 different nations looking for the best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we're looking at the issue of food to feed an urbanizing world and a world that's adding 2 billion new mouths to feed by the middle of the century. How is all that going to happen? Where's the land, the resources, the water, and the infrastructure that it takes to do this? And it's very interesting. There's a number of people here to say that we're actually living in it, around it, and we're sitting on top of it. This is all the millions, actually probably billions of acres on the planet that are actually locked into cities, townships, small communities that are actually not being used or have been turned into grasslands for yards or what have you. And so it seems like there's actually a real opportunity to provide the food from within the own local areas. We have two people that are coming on. They're going to be with us. We have Wendy Levitz, who is the Director of Gardens and a Master Gardener with Slow Food Miami. And then we have Delia Zapata, who is a science teacher at St. Stephen's Episcopal Day School in Miami, Florida. And they're going to come in by Skype. And I must say that right beside me is our assistants for this program, Serena Berra, who is the Director of Marketing, Amy Treese, who is Director of Membership for Slow Food Miami. And ladies, welcome to the Emerald Planet. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Glad to have you. Wendy, just tell us a little bit about what is a master gardener. We're going to start with real basic things here, and then we'll move to what you're doing as far as slow food. But what is a master gardener, and why is that important as far as Slow Food Miami, Slow Food International?
Well, sure. A master gardener is someone who's been trained by the cooperative county extension of your local county. Just about every county in the United States has a cooperative extension. And so I was trained, and I basically have a certificate of horticulture, and it's a free program, but what I need to do to pay for this program is to give back in volunteer hours to educating homeowners in Miami-Dade about best practices for gardening.
Well, I'm going to throw in, since I'm a graduate of Virginia Tech, is that Florida State University is your land-grant university in Florida, and they're the ones that actually run the Master Gardener program, so we need to put a plug in for Florida State. So it's a fantastic program. Delia, I know you're a science teacher. How does food fit into science at St. Stephen's Episcopal Day School?
Food is a very important part in my curriculum. It's the garden where I teach children how inside of every seed there's a tiny plant waiting to grow.
Now, hold on one second. We're going to bring up a slide, and I think we're going to look at some of the students that you have down there. Go ahead, Delia. Science and food.
Well, I teach 3-year-olds to 2nd grade science, general science, and in life science, the garden has become part of my curriculum because the students start from a little tiny seed. They learn that there is a little plant inside of it. They watch it grow, they nurture it, and then they harvest what they grow and get to eat it. They will prepare it either in the classroom or in the lunchroom.
Well, I think
mostly green beans because it's a fast crop to grow here in South Florida in the fall. I've tried corn. That was fun. We had squash, radishes, tomatoes, various vegetables. And for many children, it's the first time they're actually tasting these vegetables.
Well,
it goes across the curriculum.
I was raised on a very, actually it was a ranch, about 1,200 acres, but we had dairy, and one of the gentlemen that was in the war with my dad called one day and he says, I have 2 daughters and they both want to know how you can grow milk in a glass bottle. He says, I need help. I'm coming out to your farm. And he shows up that afternoon, and so they spent the whole time watching the cows come in and get cleaned and processed and milked and all that. And it sounds like you're doing the same thing as where you're actually allowing the students to know where their food is coming from and then how to actually prepare it to eat.
Exactly, exactly. We have a pizza box where we have tomatoes, peppers, basil growing in that, so they'll harvest that to make their little mini pizzas. We provide the herbs for our kitchen, for our chef who prepares lunch for all the students. And he's there every day cutting the fresh herbs, and sometimes he'll stop by the classroom if I have a class and talk to the students about what he's going to be using in the lunch today.
That's fantastic. Wendy, looking at Miami's what's called Edible School and Community Garden Program, I know we're not eating schools these days, but Edible School, what exactly is that?
Well, I believe you're asking me about what our edible program is like.
Yes, Edible School and Community Garden Program.
What we do, at the request, teachers apply for a grant. And if there are certain criteria that they can meet, really it is having the principal who really wants the garden, several teachers who can help teach the students and integrate it into the curriculum, and access to enough sunlight and water. We're able to grant them a garden. We have so far installed 120 gardens around more than 50 Miami-Dade schools. And the students then get an opportunity. The teachers come to a workshop, we educate them, and then the teachers go and purchase Florida-friendly starts and seeds. And we have a planting day, and we have a lot of volunteers who come, and we have a hands-on planting with the students and teach them how a plant goes into the ground, how a seed goes into the ground, and they can watch the process of how they can grow their own food.
I'll tell you, looking at this carrot here, this is incredible as far as the size, and also too, Wendy, going back to what Delia said as far as the variety of plants and vegetables that you're growing at the school. It's an incredible variety that you have. Are there any what you call native varieties within Miami that you're actually growing in these school gardens?
That's a very good question. We do really promote the Everglades tomato. That's one of our local cherry tomatoes that grows really very well. We've also started promoting the Seminole pumpkin, although that's a little bit different for schools because this is a very large mounding, vining plant that even, it kind of mounds up and it can go up a tree and hang down. So that's limited to space, but that is something that's local here also. Many of the other vegetables I wouldn't necessarily say are local, the carrots and radishes, but there are things that do grow very well here.
Yeah, and also they're kind of a miracle plant and should be a part of everyone's diet. Anyway, Dahlia, tell us a little bit about school teachers that are here around the globe, since you really are an international organization, how they go about applying for and maybe even obtaining some funds that would help their particular school to be involved. And I would assume that's whether it's a public school, maybe a charter school, or even a private school.
Well, there are many organizations that are now offering grants for gardens, school gardens. In fact, I applied for one for 4 years before I finally got it. It was $200, but $200 is a lot of money and goes a long way for seeds and starts and soil. And a lot of other corporations are also funding gardens. Slow Food funded my first garden, and I started with 4 boxes, and now I have 12 garden boxes that we use and plant.
That's fantastic. Well, Wendy is working on the school gardens, and I know that being a master gardener, you're utilizing your skills. And what types of skills did you learn through the Master Gardener program that you feel like applies directly to the youth, but also the teachers that you're working with in these various school programs?
Well, the Master Gardening program, first they call out the volunteers. They're really looking for volunteerism, for people who are interested in giving back to the community. And so they look for people with good verbal skills and who want to interact with people. And so those are the skills that they're looking for to begin with. And then in the program itself, they then teach me about horticulture and how to actually apply what I've learned. You know, it's very different to read something in a book than to actually actively garden and actively plant. And so it's a thrill to be able to learn those things and then teach the teachers at the workshops, and to know that the teachers are then inculcating those skills into the children by teaching the children those skills. And then also some of those children are then coming home and teaching their parents. Many students go home and tell their parents that they would like to build a garden and continue growing their own foods at home. Well, so many of these students that we talk to tell us that they don't have these gardens at home, and we know that we have an impact that many of them do go home and plant gardens in their homes.
Well, looking at it, you know, you're part of the Master Gardener program, which is with Florida State, the land-grant university, and it has the youth training program called 4-H. Are you involving the 4-H clubs with the schools where you're setting up the slow food gardens? Are you actually running it in conjunction with the 4-H? How's the 4-H program fit into this? Are you totally separate from that type of program?
We actually have not been reaching out to 4-H or partnering with them, but that is absolutely something we could consider doing, and we may look into that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, because they have funds and they have the mandate to set up gardens, you know, in every community throughout the entire United States. So it's something that's very important. We're getting down to the end, Delia. As far as your school, St. Stephen's Episcopal Day School, what do you think that the students are learning that they're taking home and then taking into the community?
Well, first of all, they're learning where their vegetables really come from, not the grocery store. They don't grow in the grocery store. They grow in the ground. They're learning that there's a tiny seed inside of every plant. They're learning to make good choices and encouraging their family to make these type of nutritional choices. They're learning also great skills of math, science, poetry, art. It goes across the curriculum, the garden. And children are natural scientists. They love nature, so this is a perfect match.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. We're going to lose you in about 1 second coming up, but thank you for being with us. We have Wendy Levitz, the Director of Gardens and Master Gardener, and Slow Food Miami, and Delia Zapeta, who is a science teacher, St. Stephen's Episcopal Day School. Thank you for being with us and sharing, and thank you for watching as we talk about Slow Food International, Slow Food, and how it's reaching out, creating a bridge into the community through food. Thank you for the Emerald Planet.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing. No. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet, coming to you from Washington, D.C. and the United States as we look around the globe for the technologies, the services, the products, and also the people that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. As the world urbanizes, as more people move into cities and large urban communities, the real concern is the water, of course, but also the food that we can have that's actually going to be able to meet the needs of many new mouths that are going to be joining us on the planet. At the same time, we're more and more realizing through an organization that's called Slow Food Miami and the Slow Food International out of Italy, is that we're actually living around on top of millions of acres of land that can be brought into productivity, i.e. back into the cities. Much of this land in many of the older cities, maybe 200 or 300 years, it's been lying there fallow and doing not much more than growing weeds or grass. And so how do we take that and make it something that's productive, also to enhance and control the water and the air quality of the environment? And so we're looking at the experts. I have two of those sitting right beside me. One is Serena Baer, who is the Director of Marketing. Amy Therese, who is the Director of Membership of Slow Food in Miami. And they're here backstopping on the master chefs that we have. One has just popped up on the screen. Giorgio, welcome.
How you doing?
Good to see you here. I'm going to let, if you don't mind, I'm going to let Serena just give a little bit about the Snail of Approval Chef program, and then I'll have a question for you. How's that?
Sure.
Great, thanks. And Chef Giorgio is one of our nominees for this year for the Snail of Approval Award, which is an award we give to the local chefs, producers, and artisans for their contribution to the quality, the authenticity, and the sustainability of the food supply in Miami. So it's an honor that we give them to help support their work, but also it's works not unlike the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval to help the consumers identify those people that are contributing to the food supply in a positive way and with delicious food.
Yeah, Chef Giorgio, it's interesting. You're almost like the Queen of England, where you only have a first name. So obviously you're becoming very, very famous. But you are the lead chef at the Eating House restaurant in Miami. We wanted to put that in there and understand from Serena and Amy that you really are a proverbial spark plug for encouraging local foods to be used in the restaurants, and then introducing local people to local foods. Tell us about that, and why do you think that's important?
Absolutely. You know, well, first and foremost, I was a chef at a boutique hotel for about 3 years. You know, and I was really cooking for everybody else. You know, when I opened up Eating House, I said I was going to do it my way, and my way was a way that I had known all my life, which was the slow food way. I grew up around the slow food movement since I was, when I first started learning how to speak English. You know, I learned about slow food before that. I was a kid and I'd run through Carlo Petrini's office in Bra. And from that day forward, you know, I think it was the day that I picked zucchini blossoms from a garden and ate them, you know, from the garden. I really learned to appreciate food and what slow food was all about. And when I opened up Eating House, I decided that I was gonna let the produce and the ingredients that I found just dictate the menu. And we'd go to the markets, different local markets around Miami on the weekends and during the weekdays, and whatever we found, whatever looked good is what we made that day.
Yeah, well, hearing about what you're doing and the number of chefs, really important chefs and very famous restaurants, it's one way to actually actively promote slow food and to really bring it to a broader audience than just those that actually would be eating in some of these more exclusive restaurants. What are you doing outside of your own restaurant, the Eating House restaurant, and the others to reach the broader community, like children, teachers, and just people in the general community of Miami, Florida?
Well, one thing that's really come recently has been this program through Verizon Wireless. It's called the 4G for Hunger. It's actually this program that uses social media to promote awareness for these chefs' desired charities. I picked Slow Food Miami because it's so close and dear to my heart. That if we win this contest, we have $4,000 on behalf of Verizon Wireless to go to the school gardens in Miami. You know, that's going to build about 6 gardens in 6 different schools and all throughout Miami. You know, and if each school gets 40 kids, you multiply that times 240, those kids spread it to 2 of their friends, and they keep spreading the word. You know, we keep paying it forward through food and through education. That I find to be the most integral part of spreading the word of slow food. You know, to instill this mentality when they're young. You know, like I said earlier, I picked that zucchini flower. That changed my life. You know, from that day forward, I really got to understand the meaning of it. And, you know, it's really important for me to get the word out with slow food and with the school garden program because, you know, we can touch a lot of lives. And if we start to educate these kids at an early age to really respect and appreciate food and to understand the labor that goes behind it, you know, and the time and the appreciation, they are way more likely to grow a connection with this. You know, it's important for kids to connect with food, to realize that it's not just Happy Meals and bag lunches, and you know, they correlate a toy with a Happy Meal, but they don't realize that Happy Meal is going to end up like killing them one day. You know, it's really important for kids to start appreciating this, to appreciate food and to appreciate the nourishment that it provides. And you know, if we can make the education come in a fun way, in a way that's accessible to the kids and for them to understand and really relate to this, that's the way we're going to change things, and that's the way we're really going to move the slow food movement forward.
Well, I think it's really important, the philosophy that you have, the connection that you have to the Slow Food International back in Italy, but what you're doing with the kids, and you're absolutely right, the multiplier effect, if you have 50 children in each of the classes or the classrooms, but just think of the number of parents, the extended family, because you're in Miami, there are very large extended families there, so you're not just reaching the parents, but many times the aunts and uncles and cousins and
Absolutely.
nephews and grandma and grandpa and all that. And also when you grow these gardens and they're obvious within the community, it's almost like a magnet of bringing it in. These are like green lungs or, you know, filter systems for the environment, but it really just brings people to this green location.
Absolutely. You know, and if these kids if they see that there's fun behind it, they're going to continue to do it. You know, it's good for kids. They get dirty, they get to play. You know, what kid doesn't like that? But if at the end of the day it's providing them with sustenance and really something nourishing, and more than anything an education and a memory, that's, if they can relate to the fun and the joy that they get from a toy and a Happy Meal to seeing their carrot grow, you know, it's really going to change their mentality, especially at a young age.
Well, it's also something too, it's immediate. They can take that carrot or the onion, the cauliflower, the, you know, whatever it is that they're growing, take it home and fix it for dinner, or actually take it back to the school cafeteria, which I know in Washington, D.C., that's becoming very popular, that what they grow in the school garden actually goes into the cafeteria and they actually serve it, and the children actually have a chance to help prepare the food.
Absolutely. You know, it's important for them to get to see it, you know, to see the full cycle, you know, from a seedling to a sprout to fully grown to eating it. You know, you have a connection with it, and that's something that we really try to hold dearly at Eating House, you know, to really find an appreciation for the vegetable. And when the fruit of the vegetable is out of season and is no good, it's not done, we don't abuse it. We change the menu. You know, that's why we print the menu every day at the restaurant. We buy something that looks good. You know, we may have 10 servings of it, and when those 10 servings are done, it's done. And then the menu changes, or as the seasons change, the menu changes. And you know, as we go into you know, we get different produce and different bounties and different harvests, and the style of food changes. Different methods of preparation of cooking apply to different foods and different vegetables. Obviously, in the summer we have a much lighter fare, and now that we're going to, you know, somewhat of a Miami winter, we'll go into a bit of a heavier style of food, more into braises and rich flavors. And then, you know, once we hit March and we hit the Miami summer again, is when the cuisine totally changes.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. You're incorporating the native species, but also making it very seasonal. And I think that's something that people need to realize, that strawberries are not normal in much of North America 12 months of the year, that you actually have other access to fruits and vegetables, and it's important for the diet, important for your nutrition. But I have Amy, who's sitting right beside me, been very patient. She seems to know you quite well, and I'm going to let her ask a question. Amy, whatever would you like to discuss with our lead chef, Giorgio?
Giorgio, where do you see yourself in 5 years with the movement and what you're doing with Eating House?
You know, Eating House was the first step. We started off in a cafe, you know, sharing the space for 6 months, and we're going to open our doors next week. You know, it's our Eating House now. It's our home. And what we want to do, what I want, you know, and the group and all of us, we just want to continue to grow and spread our word, you know, through our food. My plan is to just have 5 or 6 restaurants at walking distance from Eating House. You know, have the bar next door. Eventually comes the Italian place to go back to the roots, you know, cook what I grew up eating, and then the barbecue joint, and then maybe the Korean restaurant. And the plan is to just keep evolving, you know, and keep changing. I want Eating House to be there forever. You know, I would love Eating House to be that restaurant in Coral Gables where you can go in shorts and a t-shirt, or you can go dressed up and you can hang out with your friends, or you can just go in for a quick bite, but still have incredible food that's thoughtful and refined, and, you know, that's good to the earth, you know, and that really follows that motto of slow food, of good, clean, and fair, to make sure that, you know, we are supporting those around us, those farms around us, and the purveyors. You know, we've got a great honey company that this guy grows honey in his backyard. It's called Garden of Ian Honey. And not only does he make this incredible local honey, but he helps us with our garden in the back that we have, which what we do is we grow I'd say 95% of our herbs and all of our finishing we grow in the restaurant, which allows us to just completely, you know, not have to source other ingredients. You know, obviously it hits a lot closer to home. We have the
Giorgio, you got about 13 seconds left, buddy.
All right.
Got to be quick.
Keep spreading the word, keep spreading the knowledge, you know, keep cooking and making people happy, I think, is the eventual goal.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for being with us all the way from Miami, Florida. And I just love your philosophy, your energy, and the way that you're really reaching out to the community and involving the youth, because through the youth you reach the parents, the extended family, and the broader community, and that's very, very important. And that shows up in what you're doing as far as your restaurant. And thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe and how we're going to address 9 billion souls on the planet by 2050. How we're going to provide the basic infrastructure, the education, the health care, water, sanitation, but also the food. This is one of the things that is very intimate to each and every one of us, and many times we think about the food before we think about the water, because water just so happens in most societies to be there. But the food is of real concern. And so what we're doing is looking at urban areas, and this is the movement of Slow Food Miami, Slow Food International out of Italy, is to how are we taking these urban areas and translate that into a sustainable model of food for people that then could morph into fuel and fiber to take them through the 21st century. Because the whole thing of having these new people on the globe is to actually increase the quality of life, not to say we're just going to try to exist here on spaceship Earth. So we have Tina Borick, who is the owner of Tina's Pride. This is a third-generation family farm in Miami, Florida. And also, she'll be coming in by Skype, and I have beside me is Amy Treese, who is the Director of Membership, sitting immediately beside me, and then Serena Berra, who is the Director of Marketing, and they're with Slow Food Miami. And they introduce us to Tina. Tina, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Nice to be with you this evening, and I'm very glad to be part of any movement that Slow Food has.
I tell you, we're glad to have you. I've heard nothing but good things about you, and they just glow when they talk about what you're doing and the work that you have and how you're actually providing food in the Miami area. So tell us a little bit about Tina's Pride.
Actually, I am from Newfoundland. I've never had anything to do with farming. My husband was a farmer. He died when my boys were 1 and 2, so I took over the farm. So the pride first came from my 2 boys because they were always so wonderful. After that, it was for vegetables. And then we decided that it was time to grow vegetables directly for Miami families, because when food travels, it loses all its minerals and all its nutrients that you really need to keep healthy. And it's time for people to be able to feed their families good, healthy, local produce. It's safe. They know where it comes from. And at Tina's Pride, we open our farm up so everybody can come down and visit our sustainable farm at least once a month.
Well, I don't know if you can see this, and I think you can. The first slide we have here is know your farmer, know your food. And I think, Tina, that's exactly what you're talking about right now. And it has this tagline of Slow Food International of good, clean, and fair. How do you incorporate that motto into the food that you're producing and then distributing that among the general community within Miami?
How we do that is we truly believe that the new organic is to know your grower, because so much of our food is in the grocery stores from foreign countries. We don't know how it's handled. We don't know where the audits come from. They're definitely not from our USDA. And local farmers on sustainable farms use the plant-based chemistry that's available to them now. And all our food in this country we know is safe. The water that's put on it is safe. And that's what Americans deserve to have on their tables, is good, safe, nutritious food.
Well, I think also
what that
too.
slogan means.
Yeah, I didn't mean to talk over you there. But you know, it's also important too that we provide jobs, and that's one of the things that we're concentrating on in Washington, D.C. As I know Slow Food, Miami's doing the same thing, is that as you expand the food production within the local community, you're actually providing not only food and also a way to clean the air, the water, and the soil, but also provide jobs.
You're absolutely right. When farmers are producing, not when they're producing, when they have sales and they're able to sell their products, they hire the people, and then they're the ones who go to Walmart and shop into the grocery shop, and that gives people working grocery stores, and then it's a domino effect. Usually it was always agriculture that all work was based on.
Well, looking at the food, is food coming off of operations such as yours more expensive, the same as, less expensive than what you would find in, say, the discount large big box grocers?
Actually, the pricing on the food, but the grocery stores pay for the food is much different what they pay for their produce. And that is one of the Green Initiative programs of Slow Food this year, is to let consumers know that when a grocery store pays $5 for 25 pounds of tomatoes to a foreign country like Mexico, and then they sell it for $2 a pound, which they make $50 on the box, when our local growers need at least $10 a box to be able to pay their bills and pay their growing costs, yet the grocery store constantly buys from foreign markets rather than pay the extra $5 and make only 40 instead of 45.
Well, the whole thing about it, I think what you're talking about, Tina, is that if you're buying from local producers, the domino effect is that, you know, each one agriculture job generates anywhere from 5 to 7 other jobs within the local community, and so you have this domino effect, as you call it, or the ripple throughout the entire economy locally, but also it goes to generate more tax revenues that goes into the schools, into the roads and city parks and all that. And I think that's something that we as Americans and people around the world really don't think that much about, is the money needs to be invested back in their own local communities.
Yes, and there's no one better than farmers that take care of the land, because any other business you're in, you don't have to worry about the land. We have to make sure the land is always pristine and perfect, because it's what gives us our crops, and you cannot grow a good crop on land that isn't really well kept care of.
Well, I know, being I was raised on a ranch that had about 1,200 acres in the entire operation, and I started out in 4-H in my 2 projects. One was forestry, the other was conservation, and I was 8 years old, so I've been at this a long time. But it just shows how when you involve youth at a very early age, you know, all those lessons and those principles really do stick with you.
Yes, and farmers are very important to America. Consider the fact that in 2040, we are going to have over 400 million people in this country, and somebody has to feed them. And it's absolutely terrible that right now in South Dade County, we have less than 5 young farmers under the age of 40 that are still in business. Less than 5. And it's mostly because of market prices that have driven their families out of business. This year alone in our area, we had 2 more farmers go out this year.
Well, I know that there's the pressures, and of course, again, this the struggle with urbanization as more and more people move into urban areas, and so they're looking for the land that it's usually been in agricultural base, and then it goes over to some kind of residential or commercial. And it's really through Slow Food Miami and Slow Food International that you can actually provide a living wage or a living income for people that are on farms. And quite honestly, the last 40 or 50 years, that's been a real stretch and very difficult, unless you had a second or even third job to even keep your family farm going and operational.
Yes, well, the movement that Slow Food is going to be doing this year, where they're going to get individuals' families, individuals' friends to go to the grocery stores, ask for the product, and then use social media to promote that through the county so everyone does it. That's what will help the farmers, because it isn't the land. We have plenty of land to farm on down here because farmers down here are very productive on their sustainable farms. Our problem is no one will buy the crops because they're buying from foreign countries. And that's where the difference needs to be made, because in order to feed this country in the future, the grocery stores need to be our good farmers markets. We have to have the grocery stores with our local quality food in them to feed the people.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with the chefs. I know they have the Snail Award where the local chefs are highlighting the local farmers' produce. And mostly we're talking about crops, but also it's meat, dairy, and herbs, fish, all the variety. But Serena Bear is here. She's the one, of course, that introduced us. And Serena, you have a question?
Would you like to talk a little bit more about your campaign to save our farmers?
The SAFE campaign.
The SAFE campaign, yeah.
Yes. The SAFE campaign actually means Save American Farmers from Extinction. Everybody should do it in their communities, because our family farms in Homestead, our government is worried about free trade for the big industries, and when they did NAFTA, they pretty well threw Dade County growers underneath the bus as far as sales were concerned. And we've had major problems in the past few years, and most of our farmers, as I said, 2 went out this year, not because they didn't grow great crops and good production, but they couldn't sell them. So SAFE is asking all people to go to the grocery store, to see if the grocery store has local homestead product. If it has it, to use social media to let everyone know. If it doesn't have it, to tell the produce manager and have them tell their boss. And if enough people all over all countries go into the grocery stores and ask for that, then the grocery store, the manager will tell his boss, and it will go to corporate, and finally grocery stores will have no other choice, because there's nothing better than when individuals do things. There's great power when people join together, and I think it's going to take the joining of these individuals to do something like that. That's actually going to be the thing that will save agriculture in our area.
Well, I think that's a good segue, too, to highlight some work that...
Yeah, we only have about 18 seconds left, and Amy was sharing with me about what do you see for your future with Slow Food Miami? And it's got to be quick. I think we've already lost her. Okay. Oh, it's gone. Well, anyway, we want to thank you for being with us and sharing about Slow Food Miami, and
so much for
bringing these wonderful people on. And I guess we'll have to follow up again so we can get the others that you identified.
Thank you for having us.
Talked about that. And the fact, as far as Slow Food International is concerned, I think this is one of the things that it needs to get more visibility in the United States as well. As you know, Laura's the one that introduced us to it, being from Italy. And it's very, very important to, I think, to do that. We have a great